Hello, and welcome to episode 18 of the DIMP Digital Podcast. This time, you've got Mr. Piper, Mr. Logan, and myself, Apps. Gents, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, you?
Yes, not too bad. Mr. Piper?
Yeah, doing all right, thank you.
Excellent. For those that are wondering where Mr. Hall is, he's actually away this week, so Pepper's been brought into the fold to make up the bi-weekly trio. And who knows, he might get a permanent fixture out if he plays his cards right, but I very much doubt that. We'll see how it goes.
Been off that whole waffle.
Well, he might lose out at this rate. He's got to be here every 2 weeks and he's not been able to make it. But we'll see how Mr. Piper does on this particular episode.
Supply teacher.
Oh, yeah, almost like that, aren't you? Probably just as useless. Right. Let's kick off with a bit of news. And I think one of the big bits of news that have happened since we last met was that Titanfall has announced that a sequel is in development, and the main talking point of that is it's going to be multi-platform. I think a lot of people expected this, and there's rumours that they were trying to get Titanfall 1 as a multi-platform, but the contract had already been drawn up that it had been exclusive, but Microsoft have lost that particular exclusive. No release date has been announced. It sounds like it's very, very early days. It's just pretty much an announcement. Maybe like a year from now, maybe it'll come out. But Logan, you love Titanfall, so presumably it's good news that it's in development. Are you a little bit peeved that the Sony crowd are going to get their grubby mitts on this as well?
Not.
You bothered about all that, basically, is what I'm trying to... You bothered about that sort of... There's like a rivalry and people are like, oh, my console's better, blah, blah, blah. Does that bother you in any way?
A little bit. But the only reason it annoys me is because I just think you don't see PS4 losing any of their exclusive titles.
No, they just keep releasing trash, don't they, instead?
I mean, Titanfall was such a good game. I mean, I expect that they had a contract, obviously, for the first one. They go, if this is that good, then we're just going to jump on the gravy train and multi-platform it. But it is that good a game, or it was that good a game. I think from a gaming point of view, everyone should play it. So I'm a little annoyed because from a purely selfish point of view, I just want to go and gloat about how good the game is that I've got and no one else can have it if you ain't got an Xbox. But I suppose from the wider gaming community as a whole, it's good because everyone will get to play it. And I'm no doubt that this sequel is going to be even better than the first.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, I just hope they don't go for like a yearly release. I mean, they're going to miss the deadline for this year's one, but after the second one, I hope they don't start producing a third and a fourth and a fifth sort of back to back. I want them to spend, at least a year and a half, 2 years developing each sequel, making bigger strides in what they can do in terms of the gameplay and the multiplayer for that, and maybe add a story. I think that was a bit of a criticism of the last one. Not that I think it necessarily needs one personally, but I know a lot of people wanted a story, so I'm sure Respawn Entertainment can cater for that. EA have obviously come down and said, look, it's going to be multi-platform now. We can make a lot more money out of this being the publisher. It seems like a sound business move. Pepper, you've got a PS4. Have you got any interest in this Titanfall at all? Because there was a lot of stirring up when it came out last year. Would you be tempted by this, even though it is a predominantly multiplayer-only game?
I didn't get a chance to play it last time when it came out, because obviously it was on Xbox and I've got the PS4, so I think purely to get my hands on it and just to play it and play it with just you guys and the group of friends and stuff like that really sort of just appeals to me. And it was the one thing that was hanging over me as a PlayStation 4 holder, was the one thing that we really couldn't do, that everyone was saying this is amazing, this is brilliant, and now we actually get to dive into that world as well. So that's really cool. I guess the from my point of view, I'd be interested from what you have to say, because you've obviously got both consoles. Which would you be playing it on?
Well, this is a question that I will have to ask myself when the time comes. But usually, what I tend to do, having both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, my usual tactic is single player games on the PlayStation 4, multiplayer games on the Xbox One, purely because there's not that. We've got me, you, and Biff that have the PlayStation 4. I know a couple of other people, but as we found out when we've been trying to do the GTA Heist, for example, it's been difficult to get us all on at the same time. We're not the most reliable of people to do that. Whereas I find on the Xbox One, like Logan, Hall, and then Pete and some others, there's a bigger crowd there. There's a more regular sort of multiplayer crowd. I think, in general, the friends group we have, the Xbox One people are more into their multiplayer, whereas we are, more loners, sort of on the PlayStation, going through the single player campaign. So I will probably get it on the Xbox One, but it's early days. You know, who knows? There might be something that will change my mind later on down the line. Maybe more people end up with a PS4 by the time it comes out because they're coming down in price and becoming more affordable. So who knows? Maybe I'll go for that. Speaking of Grand Theft Auto Heist, they've dropped, you know, in the last week or so. Me and Piper have had a chance to play it. What's your initial thoughts, Pipes? We've done the tutorial 2-man heist, and we've basically got to the heist of the first main four-man one. What's your initial thoughts? I mean, it's almost a year and a half people have been waiting for it. Is it worth the wait? Has it been worth the wait?
Yeah, I know. I think it's really good. It's we used to play the missions quite a lot, me, you, and Biff on GTA Online, and it was just getting a bit boring. What we had to keep doing, and we sort of stopped playing it quite a lot. But now the heist is coming out, there's something more to play, and it's bigger. It's a bigger storyline rather than just maybe a half an hour mission. It's more a case of you've got like 3 or 4 half-an-hour missions all stitched together that lead into one larger mission at the end. And I know. I think it's a really good move, and I'm glad they've just sort of released it for free rather than having to be like a paid for DLC. So that's really worked into their favour, even though we've experienced as well that some of the connection issues have been absolutely appalling, and we haven't been able to really play it. We say that we played it, like to get through that tutorial took us 2 evenings to do, and that was a quick jobby, and purely because it kept kicking us off, kept lagging out. But it was free, so who are we to complain?
Yeah, I think on the Wednesday we gave it a go, didn't we? And we couldn't get on it properly. But I think Thursday we played for a good sort of 3 hours, and it's fine, wasn't it? So I think it was just the first couple of days that were, you know, an issue for that. And you're right. It being free is a massive plus, because a lot of publishers and whatnot would charge for this sort of extra content, because there's clearly been a lot of work in there. Rockstar are saying there's a good 20 hours plus extra content there, and it's more story driven. There's a lot more continuity. The only gripe I have is that you've pretty much got to have a 4-man team, haven't you? And again, from our group, we've only got 3 of us on it, so we're having to, you know, get a randomer in there, and they're not always the most reliable. They're a bit erratic. It'd be good if you could have a bot taking that place, and maybe you could take over, or maybe they release sort of more 2- and 3-man heists in the future. Who knows? I'm hoping they release a few more for it, but we'll work our way through it. And I think it's good that it's finally here. It's a monkey off their back, because it's been ongoing for so long, and I think the fans are generally going to be happy with what they get there. 2 games that caused a bit of controversy for different reasons are Dying Light and the Order 1886. Now, to my surprise, Dying Light has held the top spot in the UK games chart for 2 weeks. So this is like a month after it's actually come out and digitally, it's come and hit the retail stores. So it's gone to number 1, sat here for 2 weeks. And the week before that, the Order 1886 got number 1 as well. Now, this was getting shit on, basically, you know, in the lead up to the reviews. It was too short, blah blah blah. It was just nice graphics, but it's resonated with some very, very good sales. Are you surprised by this, Logan?
No, not really.
Wow.
I think it's because there's not a lot else out. Well,
yeah, you're just very good point.
If they're releasing a game, nothing's really been coming out, I would say, that's been taking the headlines.
No.
Recently, not that I can think of.
No.
Is there anything that I've missed?
No, you're right. I mean, in terms of like sort of marketed games and big, what you'd call big games, yeah, you're probably right.
So people probably haven't had anything. They've had their Christmas presents or whatever. Now they're looking for a new game to play. What have they got? They've got Dying Light or The Order. So they've gone out and bought it. Well, I mean, they've probably thought, well, they might have their little problems, but I can deal with that for something to play. And people have gone for it. I
personally don't get this obsession with having to get the game when it comes out. Like last year, there was a slew of games that come out in October, November, and I find it hard to believe that a lot of these people have played through all of them games. But now, because they're seen as old, a lot of people won't go back and play them. Like you've got Rise, for example. A lot of people are not going to be going back and playing that because it's a year and a half old. And I don't get that mentality. If there's a good game there in the past, why not go back and play it, even if it is 6 months old? Like Wolfenstein, I'd love to go back and play that. And when I get time, I'm planning on doing that. But there's a lot of people that will just dismiss that simply because it came out a year ago. Dave Salmon has asked a question regarding sales and regarding, gaming sort of impact and whatnot. He said, why are people so obsessed with what games or consoles are selling rather than what the best games are to play. I think it's a good point. I think a lot of people are obsessed with it. Pepper, have you got any insight as to why you think people are obsessed with how a game's doing financially, how many sales it's getting, and why, if it's topping the charts?
Well, it's a bit like any mass multimedia industry, including, like, you look at the music industry, you look at the TV industry, you look at the film industry. It's what's currently released people want to get their hands on or want to go and see, because people I believe people like to feel like they've got one up on, or not one up, but they've seen it, they know what's happened.
It's justification for investing your money, isn't it?
Yeah, and we can say when we were kids and we used to stay up till 5 a.m. to watch WWF. We used to go to school and be like, oh, we've seen it, and if you hadn't seen it, you felt left out, left behind, and stuff like that. And it's the same with any multimedia industry. You want to be able to get there and then have that. You want to play it and enjoy it, and then you want to have that conversation with people and how you've enjoyed it and tell them about it and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's the same with all media. It's no different from anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Dave's saying here, though, he's saying there's a lot of it's a culture in gaming, whereas if a game doesn't sell well, that it's immediately shit. Or for example, the Wii U gets slated a lot because it's got the lowest amount of sales so far, blah blah blah. But as I've said many times before, I think last year they had the best in terms of the exclusives. But for whatever reason, people go, oh, it hasn't sold well, so it must be shite. I don't understand where that attitude comes from, because just because it's not got a massive feel, it doesn't mean it's a good game under there. Like for you, Logan, if you'd bought Titanfall back in last year, you loved it, but it bombed in the sales. Like everyone was going, "Nah, that's crap. It hasn't sold many." Would that have bothered you at all, or you're not interested in the sales and how things are doing?
No, I'm not interested because, for example, Advanced Warfare, that was probably sold millions.
Yeah.
It's shite. The game is shite. It's a good single player, multiplayer shite. So they're the facts. I don't really look at it. I mean, even with something like Destiny, I look at it and go, well, it's a good game, but it's limited. Like, you just got to look at them for their own merit. And that's why I quite like some of the indie games. Yeah. Because although they're not AAA titles, they're not 45 quid, but it doesn't mean they're a bad game.
No.
Like, for example, iDob, that's been one of the funnest games I've probably played for a while. It's just such a blast, and it was free with Xbox Live. So
yeah.
For me, it doesn't matter how much a game costs. I mean, it's the same with a film. If a film's a good film, it's a good film now. Yeah. It was a good film 30 years ago. So
it's like, say, for example, it's like 50 Shades of Grey. That went to the top, but the reviews were that it was awful.
Yeah.
I don't think
women are still going to go and see that, aren't they? Because it's their version of porn. But
it's to do with marketing, to be honest, really, at the end of the day, and how much marketing a company like Ubisoft can throw behind a game and get it pushed. Because we just have to look at the AAA games that are coming out that have got all this mass marketing behind it, and everyone's going, they're poor, but people still buy them. However, there might be this really, really great indie game that only sort of filters out because maybe people do YouTube videos on it and stuff like that, and that's the only way it manages to filter out to the mass audience.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to do with, I guess, money and how much money can be piled into a game. There's no sort of level playing field. A game can't be. It's hard for the average gamer to judge a game on a game merit if they've never heard of a really good game compared to some game that they've been sort of shoved down their throats.
Yeah, I think the point he's trying to make here is that a lot of people, for whatever reason, when you invest in a game, say you buy, I don't know, say we go and get, Bloodborne or something like that. If I go and buy that on release day, then there's a culture within the video games industry where you will then look for justification for your buy. So you will then look at the sales. People look and say, oh, it's sold, it's top of the charts. That's brilliant. I've made a good choice there. Whereas if it bombs, people get really frustrated and angry, and other people that haven't played it then go, well, that must be shit because it's not sold well. It just seems like a very weird sort of culture that there is in video games where people are constantly looking for justification. It's the same with the consoles as well. Like, a lot of people are gloating, going, "Oh, look at how many sales the PS4's done, 20 million now. Look at the Xbox One, giving it all that." Why does it matter? Doesn't matter, does it really?
No, but the Xbox is a bit crap.
No, that's not a bad point to end that particular one on. We had the BAFTA Game Awards take place. And I'll just reel off a couple of the winners in different categories. I won't do them all because there's quite a lot of them. But artistic achievement went to Lumino City. Game innovation went to The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which I'm looking forward to play. Multiplayer went to Hearthstone, Hero of Warcraft. British game went to Monument Valley. Original property went to Valiant Hearts. Debut game went to Never Alone. Performer went to Ashley Johnson from The Last of Us Left Behind, and that's Ellie. Game design went to Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor. Struggling to see how they got that one, considering it nicks pretty much most features from the games and adds the Nemesis system. Maybe the Nemesis system alone was enough to do that. Sport. Well, Logan, you're gonna be sick at this one. FIFA and FIFA 2015 and Football Manager both stunned out of it by a 2D game called Ollie Ollie.
Yeah.
So your game of the year toppled in its own category.
Yeah. If it had Spreadsheet Simulator Game of the Year, it'd be there.
It would be. Should come with Office. Story of 2015. Well, all these awards are for 2015, but they're for 2014 games. I never understood why they do that. But The Last of Us Left Behind, that was released last year, very early, so they haven't forgotten about that, which is good. And best overall game, Destiny. Now, Jamie Rumble's asked us, what are our views on the BAFTAs? I think I watched about half an hour of it, and it seemed like it was a very good production. I watched the highlights. They done a good job of presenting it, which I think was important for games. You don't want it coming across as, a bit weird or whatnot. It had its own sort of quirky bits in it that you'd expect for video game awards, but it was done in a professional manner. But what do we make of, Destiny taking the title? Because that was a very much of a Marmite game. Logan, you've got it. You've played countless hours of it. You've even said yourself it's a bit hit and miss. Are you surprised that that's one best game?
A little bit, but again, I just think it's from a lack of viable alternatives.
Well,
there's nothing. Destiny. Well, I haven't played that. Can't comment. But
what I would say is that normally the Game of the Year awards, it's generally there's about 2 or 3 games, and last year it was pretty much Dragon Age, and it was taking titles, or Shadow of Mordor seemed to be in other sort of game awards they were winning it. And because Destiny got a bit of not a mixed reception, but it didn't get universal acclaim like you'd expect, I think a lot of people were just surprised that Destiny's come out on top.
I mean, I've my thoughts, and I think it's a brilliant game, but I do accept it's got its limitations and its faults. But it is a game that it is really fun to play. It does look really good. And I just enjoy playing it. I mean, I haven't played it for probably a couple of weeks now, but I still could go back to it quite happily. And I'm looking forward to the new DLC coming out, even though I know it'll be a disappointment. So it was a good game, but I think at the same time, or it still is a good game, but I think at the same time, if there was anything out there, obviously, that was better or that was competing with it, I think it would have won it. But from my point of view, there's nothing out there at the minute which is blowing people's minds away.
Piper, I mean, you've played about 5 minutes of Destiny. I think you described it as, what do you describe it as? Call of Duty on Coke, I think was the...
Yeah, it's just everyone jumping around shooting, and I'm not big on the shooting game, so to me, it seemed like cool. And I've played Call of Duty, but it seemed like Call of Duty on Coke, and everyone was jumping around everywhere. I couldn't get to grips with it, but I can see why it's won it. The graphics was absolutely visually perfect. I couldn't fault the graphics. I felt like,
well, you'd think it would win the artistic achievement, but no, it gets stuck.
I think that's but also a really important part of like the whole game in general. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like shoots like Loading, like Hall and stuff like that get really behind that. And like Loading was saying, there wasn't a lot that came out last year. Like, we're still playing GTA. That's a 2-year-old game. It shows that the transition of the consoles hasn't quite made it with all the amazing games that have come out yet. But I think 2015 is going to be a lot different. We're going to have a lot better, and that best game category is going to be a lot harder to judge for next year's BAFTAs.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. I still think there were good games out there, but they're seen as old now, so I don't think people are going to play them for whatever reason. But I was a bit surprised, and I think a lot of people were that Destiny won it just simply because it did get a bit of a mixed reception, and maybe it is the artistic side that's sort of won it over, and the fact that for whatever reason people like Logan say, well, it's pretty limited, but I will go back and play it any time. And I think there's a lot to be said about a game that can do that to you, where you know it's limited, but for whatever reason you're enjoying the experience, and especially something like a first-person shooter where that is so saturated now. You've got so many first-person shooters out there. For that to stand sort of head and shoulders above everything else, it says some volumes for it. But let's go on to EGX Rezzed now. For those that don't know what this is, it's a video games event, and it's taken place in London this past weekend. It's a smaller event than the Daddy EGX event, which takes place in Birmingham later on this year, and it features playable pre-release games, developer presentations, a chance to chat with developers and try new games and whatnot. We went down there Thursday. Mr. Logan, just in general, not really many specifics, what did you make of our day out down there on Thursday? No, we went on Friday, didn't we? Sorry. Really cocked it up.
I was thinking, I was trying to get my days there. And it was all right. It didn't blow me away as I was expecting to. I mean, I looked at some stuff online beforehand, and some of the pictures they had of Rezzed and stuff, and I just thought, wow, this looks amazing. And it was absolutely nothing like that. They'd obviously taken pictures of EGX in the NEC and gone, yeah, that's what you're getting. And I was like, well, it's not what I got, but it was good. It's good to see. It's good that that like-minded people are around you. So everyone there is literally solely there looking.
Well, people walking around dressed up, and then that's not like-minded to me. Come on, come on, not interested.
Similar interests?
No.
Right. Well, anyway, it was good. So, for example, we got to play Bloodborne, which we wouldn't have ever got to play before. But there was some other stuff that griped at me a little bit. So you got stuff there, like you got a big stand for Iron Bread. I think, well, that's on early release for $6.99. Just go and get it. Support them that way. Don't come here and play a free 15 minutes of it.
But you could go into that stand and talk with some of the people that are actually working on the game and have. I think that is what the appeal is. Like you can sit there and chat to them about the development cycle, or talk about the game, or just shoot the shit with them. And you don't get that opportunity, obviously, if you buy it on early access.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, you can go around and talk to people.
You're just unsociable, aren't you? That's what it is, and you don't.
Well, I'm there. I don't really care how they're developing it, or I don't really. It doesn't interest me. I just want to play good games. I don't care about whether they used Unity 4.6 or Unity 5.0. I'm not interested. It doesn't mean anything to me. All I want to do is play a good game. So.
Well, don't play Football Manager then. Come on.
But anyway, they had a good bit. So it was good to see Gang Beasts, and it is good. I like the focus on indie development, because I think sometimes it doesn't really get enough focus. Everyone focuses so much on titles. So I did like the fact that there was only a couple of what you'd probably class as big names there. The rest of them were sort of smaller indie developers. So yeah, I think overall probably 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Not
scoring system.
Yeah, it's got a scoring system implemented. Mr. Piper.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? I mean, you've been to events and whatnot before. I mean, not gaming related. How did this? How did you feel about it? Or I know you like to.
Bothered by the pillars.
Yeah.
What was that noise?
Really got stumped then. No, I liked it. It was a very small. It was a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't in the layout I was going for. It felt like there was loads of sort of stores around. I'd never been to Tobacco Dock, so the way to describe it was loads of sort of like little units around like a big sort of area, and then you'd go in those units, and then there would be units, rooms, same difference. So you'd go around and you'd go into these different rooms. So it wasn't like a big hall like they would have at the Res conference in Birmingham, which is just one big room, and then everyone builds stands. And I think those were the pictures that obviously Logan was looking at, where it had like people that had these amazing stands done up and stuff like that. So people were enticed to come into their game.
Yeah.
Whereas you'd go more into a room, and that room would be sponsored by like Xbox or by PlayStation or by or just a room full of indie stuff. It wasn't as big, and I was expecting maybe a bit more. The problem, we did get to play a few exclusives and a few things that we would have never got to play, like the virtual reality stuff and Bloodborne, and we got to do some stuff like that. However, Logan was right. There's a lot of games there that are on Steam early access that we could go away and just pay a couple of quid for and go and play it the whole way through and just get our enjoyment out of it from that. And I was looking for more exclusives, more different, or even if those games like Iron Bread were there or something like that. I was looking for like, this is a new level we're designing, come and have a go and tell us what you think, rather than like just come over here and like maybe you can talk to us and we've paid a bit more money for our stand, so our stand's a little bit bigger, or you can tell like the people that got more money because they've only got like one computer screen, so it's very limited, or whether you can go over to like Bloodborne where they've got like whatever, like 10 and then the queue going in for it and stuff like that. So overall it was a really good day, and it was enjoying it, and something we hadn't done before. So it was a new experience. But whether it's something I'd go to that one again, I doubt it. If I was trying to go to a game one, I'd definitely try and go for one of the bigger ones. Would
you go to like the Daddy EGX one in Birmingham? That'd be more.
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd probably get a lot more out of it. Like in terms of like even the fact that these things you hear about all these cosplays and stuff like that. I think I saw about 2-3 people in cosplay, and one of them was just wearing like a Sonic, onesie, and I was a bit like, Christ, come on.
The other guy dressed as Sonic was just wearing a hat that had like hedgehog spikes on it and a blue vest.
Yeah,
I just saw him sitting there. I was like, well, if you're going to make the effort.
It was really, really poor. And you expect the other people that were dressed around in cosplay will probably pay to be there. So it wasn't like I'm going to selling it, so come back again next year. I was a bit like, right, I sort of enjoyed it. I sort of got
give you a taste of
it, but let's go to Birmingham next time. Let's try and get a bigger exclusive. We went there for 11 and it closed at 6, so we thought it gives us the whole 7 hours. We thought, we don't know how long it's going to be. We left at 2:30.
Yeah,
it was like we were like, well, we could stay around, but none of the talks were really that appealing to us. No. We went to see the Valve talk and stuff like that, and the virtual reality, but it was like all the rest were just not appealing. So we just sacked it off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like these type of things in general, like just crowds of people bumbling your way through tiny gaps, people getting in the way, queuing up, all that bollocks. It does annoy me. It's good to play some of the games like The Escapists. Yeah, I could go out and buy that, but it's good to sit down and play that for a couple of minutes to see what it's like, get a little taste of it. But I still think one of the more interesting things was talking to one of the Gang Beasts people that are working on it and just chatting with him for 5 minutes. I quite like talking to him and asking him questions about how it was conceived and what they're planning to do. And he even mentioned the fact that it's coming to PlayStation 4 later on this year, which none of us was aware of. I was hoping it would come to a console of some sort, and it's coming to PlayStation. That's a good sort of time. He also said that on IndieDB we can download an early sort of build of it, which I've gone and done, so I'm messing around on that rather than buying it for early access. And I found it quite interesting just standing there chatting to him about the game and talking about what they've done and what change they've made and whatnot. I quite like that part of it, but I agree with the pair of you that the majority of games that were on offer here were games that we could go out and get any way, shape or form. There was nothing really new there apart from, as we mentioned, like Bloodborne and whatnot. A lot of the other stuff you could go out and get yourself on early access and make your own mind up without having to queue up and bumble into people. So that was a little bit frustrating, but I agree. I think that going to the bigger event, we would get a lot more out of that. And I think I'm not sure if they've done Rezzed before, because this is the first time that EGX, the big one's actually coming out of London and going up to Birmingham. So maybe they were just doing an event down here in London to sort of get people in this local area, because Birmingham's a bit of a way. But I'm quite up for going to the big one and giving that a try. Maybe going for a couple of days if it's needed and seeing what happens there. But let's go through some of the actual bits and bobs we sat down and played. So one thing we haven't made is we haven't mentioned we actually had a go on the Oculus Rift, didn't we? And we got to play Amiga Agent, which is like it's a virtual reality game where you're on a jetpack and you're flying around a city. I'm going to start with you, Logan, because I don't think your experience was quite as good as me and Piper, because it made you feel a little bit ill, didn't it? It gave you headaches.
Give him tablets, fucking journey.
Yeah.
I mean, is that your first? That's your first experience of VR, isn't it? So,
yeah, completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went. It's worth pointing out that I went last, so it was you, then Piper, then me, and I was sort of watching the screen of what's going on. It sort of splits. So you can see what's going on. Two different eyes. Yeah, but I was looking at it, I was thinking the graphics aren't great. I was thinking I don't really understand what this is offering. I was like, I can't imagine this is going to be much better in the VR. But when I sat down and put it on, I was like, oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Like, it really does actually immerse you. And I think the Valve guy pointed out, he goes, when you put VR on,
Yes.
your brain just accepts that reality for what it is.
Doesn't matter how it looks. Yeah.
You just go, right, this is now what my reality is. And your brain is tricked and it goes, this is real. So you're sitting there, and even though the graphics aren't there, because you're immersed in it, you treat it as real.
Yeah.
And as I say, I was going around and I was flying through. You're basically on a jetpack, and you can sort of fly around buildings and stuff. And yeah, I mean, there was one point where I went flying around, and I sort of looked down, and I sort of went, whoa! It sort of like made my head go weird. Like,
Did you feel like vertigo or anything? Did it feel like Did you feel high up, or how was?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I have actually got a fear of heights. I didn't feel like that, but it just made my head go funny. I was like, oh, it sort of like made me go a bit dizzy. I think that is like vertigo, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of a bit like, oh, it lasted about 3 seconds, but then I was back on, and I was like, oh, it's good fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I pulled the VR off and everything, my head was a bit like, oh, bloody hell.
Bit shocked at that.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked for about 10 minutes, but it was a really good experience. I'm glad I did it. It didn't put me off VR at all. It just enhanced the view that it is going to be great for some games.
Yeah. So Piper, you had a go as well. Again, I'm making the assumption that was your first experience of VR as well.
Yeah, no, it was. It's hard to describe VR. Like, you look at it and you think that's going to be cool, but you don't really know what it's going to be like until you put on the headset, and then you're immersed by it and you're just sucked in. And it's like we was playing it on a graphics, and there weren't great graphics. I'm trying to think of something. Just imagine something like a Minecraft that's sort of smoothed out. It was sort of those type of graphics.
Well,
so
the chap that I was speaking to said it was designed for the Samsung Gear, so it's actually going to run on a lower powered, just like almost like a mobile device. So you know, like you said, the graphics weren't photorealistic.
No, but it didn't matter.
No,
the graphics just didn't matter because you felt like you're doing something cool. Like the level that we played and all that felt quite limited in what it could do, but it gave us a really good idea where VR can go, and there is so much it can do, and I'm really so excited to see what over the next sort of few years that can do. And I think it's in November we've got like the HTC headset vibe coming out, stuff coming out. So. It's only going to get bigger, it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get cheaper, which is a really good thing. I'm now massively excited for that, and to such an extent I'm sort of potentially thinking, should I go and get that Valve in November when that headset comes out, because it'll just be really cool. And it's only about £400, which isn't too bad for considering it's a new bit of technology, a completely new bit of technology. It probably isn't the best thing to go out and get for £400, but it might just be really good fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I quite liked it. I mean, Omega Agent I think that game worked really well VR because you didn't have to run or move your body. You're in a jetpack, aren't you? Your arms are holding onto the jetpack, and you use the control to sort of move yourself and shoot. And your feet are just dangling. So sitting down on a chair, it felt natural that what you were doing on the screen was, how you'd do. If you were actually walking around, but obviously you're still seated, I don't think those type of games would work properly with it. But I think Omega Agent is one of the better ones for VR. Do you feel that every type of game will work on VR based on this, or do you think it is going to be a bit limited over to what you can and can't do and what will work?
Yeah, I think it is going to be limited. I think it's almost got to be limited to, as you say, what you can do sitting down. I don't like this, because I mean, they mentioned in the VR talk that we had about sort of moving around a room, and I don't really see that as the way forward for VR. Especially in my room, I'd sort of be clambering into a bed.
Wow.
For fuck's sake. You just got, not many people got the room to do it, but...
Well, not many people had room for the Kinect when that first came out, because...
Still haven't.
And people haven't got that room. No, you're right.
But I think for certain games, yes. I think that one was perfect. When thinking about it, you literally... So your image, your perception is that you're looking around with your head, which is what you're doing. You're doing the controls on the jetpack in the game with your hands, and that's exactly what you're doing. And so everything was perfect for it.
Yes.
I mean, I think they mentioned there's a fishing game they've got. There's one that they're doing with Bossa for Surgeon Simulator, where you can lean over and you can see the hands and stuff. Those sort of games. So I think you've got to be standing up or sitting down. You've got to be stationary. So I think it is limited,
Stephen Hawking Simulator. There you go. Wow. They can have that.
There's already done that, mate. It's on computer.
Really?
Windows 95.
Well, Stephen Hawking.
There you go, a little fact for people. I'm I'm quite excited about VR now. I mean, I've got the Google Cardboard set up, which was good. It let me get a really like budget and light touch way of seeing what can be done. But having like a full on game where I was moving around and shooting, it was really immersive, and it's just incredible just looking around. When I was spinning the bloody jetpack around looking, I started feeling a bit sick. I was like, Christ, it really does draw you in. You feel like you're being spun round on on almost like a roundabout of sorts. But I'm quite excited over what can be done now. I know it was a bit unsure when we discussed it a few weeks ago, but I think that's sort of changed our perception on what VR can do. And I think if the right games are made in the right way, then it certainly can work. Whether it will have mass market appeal, I don't know. But to be honest, I don't really care. I'm there to play and experience the games myself, not worry about what other people are doing. We've touched on it really briefly. We went for like a presentation from Valve, and it was like a developer session. It was based around VR in 2015 and their sort of HTC Vive headset they've been developing. It had a guy up there from Valve and two guys from two separate games. We had Surgeon Simulator, and I forget the other one, Skyward something or other.
Yeah, it's called something like Sky.
Yeah, I mean, I personally was a bit underwhelmed by the presentation itself. It didn't seem like they were on point. There was a lot of planning wasn't there. I was expecting perhaps a live demo of it, something like that, not just them sitting there. And the fact that we can't remember the name of the game, the other one, I think bodes sort of tells the story itself in what we thought of it. Mr. Piper, you've been to countless events. What did you make of this particular session? Because this is the one we sort of planned to go to, wasn't it? We wanted to go to the VR one and see what they had to say.
Yeah, I've seen a lot. There wasn't anything, so there was pillars in the way, but there's nothing to the pillars. Sometimes it's the way a presentation's delivered, and to be honest, that had me pretty much falling asleep. It was interesting, but
you kept looking at your watch.
Yeah, well, it was just. I was wondering how long it's going to go on for. They were just talking, and then they went into a sort of like an internal Q&A. Yeah. And then it was just nothing exciting. They're meant to be at the lead of massive new technology and fantastic, and really need to really excite that. This is the people in the audience, the people that are going to want to develop on this new software. They're going to be people that want to buy this new software. But however, there was no one going, oh, look at this is the new software. They said they had it downstairs for developers to go and look at, but they weren't showing us, the audience, or they didn't want to show us any gameplay or anything demos. They just left a picture of the headset up on the screen for the whole thing, and it was just a bit like, I'm a bit bored now. You're not showing me anything to get excited about. You're talking about some cool stuff. The games that you're talking about aren't really over the top. One was, as you said, Surgeon Simulator in space. And the other one was where you had to walk around a table or something like that. There was that Sky. They were talking about walking. You had to walk around it as it's like a table. So it's like, must be like a world. It's a table. As you said, it's forgettable. It's not interesting. A good presentation. Someone that's got, unfortunately, personality and can come across and deliver something that people get excited about and people think, yeah, I can get behind that. I just couldn't get behind it. As I said, I want to get the Valve headset, but it didn't get me excited enough to say, yeah, I'm definitely going to go out and get the Valve headset.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a few good bits, few little nuggets in there when they was talking about the guy from the Bossa Studios talking about how they were having problems implementing elbows and arms into their motion. So obviously it wasn't correcting right. And what they decided to do is, rather than have the arm and the shoulders and whatnot, just have the hands in front of them. There was some interesting bits and bobs about how they were talking about people when they're in the VR, they take it as real, and they would actually lean over the 3D sort of table, be afraid to knock into it and bang their leg. There was like some nuggets scattered through there, some interesting bits and bobs, and we mentioned about how they said about the graphics, and people don't seem to care once they've strapped in and they're into the world. But for 35 minutes, there wasn't quite enough there to keep my interest. Mr. Logan, we'll finish up on you. Did that excite you for what VR has to come, or was you sort of like, meh, heard some of this before?
Bit of both, really. I think it was interesting to hear some of the challenges they've got from it from a developer point of view. I was like, all right, cool. But I was expecting a bit more, whether it was just a bit of footage or whether it was them just something to just wet my lips on, really. And I must admit, with VR, I'm not that keen on the idea of doing things in VR that I could do in real life. So, for example, like this one, this Sky one, it's basically a room and you can go around and pick stuff up from a table and stuff. Well, I can do that with my hand in real life. I don't want to be amazed by being able to do it in VR. So, for example, the Surgeon one, I can understand. I'm never going to do that. It was a good fun game.
You can have a go, but you'll kill.
Yeah.
Jodie lay on the bed.
And obviously the Agent one, I'm not going to be able to get on a jetpack. So those things are things that I'm not going to be able to experience in real life. And I don't want to be amazed by something that they've replicated in VR that I can do in real life already. I don't see the point of it doing that. I think VR should be able to enhance your experience, and you should be able to do things that you can't do in real life, which a video game allows you to do. So my concern is that going down that route. But with the actual presentation, it was a bit underwhelming. And I just think you've got 700 people here. You've got developers. You've probably got people like us who are going out and reporting on this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're not got the world's biggest audience, but it's not the point. It's at the moment,
mate.
I mean, I just think do a bit more for us. Like, at least wet our lips, wet 700 people's lips with it, and make them want it even more. But
yeah, it did quite pull off. I mean, yeah, like I said, there was some interesting parts in there, but I think overall I was expecting a little bit more. Maybe we misunderstood what we was expecting to get out of that. But
just a last point, sorry, as well that I wanted to make was that I'm not too keen on this idea of going with what we've got already. So I don't necessarily like the idea of adapting games. I mean, I know they've got to deal with what they've got to start off with, but I'd like them to sort of start from the ground up, because they mentioned things like when we started with cars, we had a rudder design, and it was only after we actually went on that we went, no, this is a ridiculous way of doing it.
Yeah.
We use a steering wheel, and now we've obviously got a controller, but I just think if we're going to start adapting games, then we're not going to start with that brand new thought process. So I'd like to see them just start doing some stuff from scratch with it and going, right, what can we actually do? Do we need any of this sort of stuff that we're accustomed to on games?
What do you want to do with it then, Logan?
What do I want to do with it?
Yeah, what do you want to see? What you're saying, you want something new. What is new?
Right, okay, well, just a point in...
Jetpack.
Jetpack is new. That is a new experience for me. But what I'm saying is they're doing a fishing simulator. Well, if I really want to do fishing, I can
it's
go
fucking
fishing.
cold, mate. I'll tell you, you don't want to. You don't want to
is.
sit there for hours on end. I'm telling you, my brother does it.
Yeah, and I don't want to do it with a VR kit.
Fishing simulators are one of the biggest selling things on consoles. I don't know what you're on about.
I'm not saying that it's simulators have got a place, but I don't necessarily think it's the right thing for VR to simulate something
racing
that I can do in real life. So it's got to be something, an experience that maybe I can have, but chances are of me being able to do it or it being too expensive. So I haven't got anything that's coming to my head at the moment. But I don't know. I was thinking like something that might be quite cool is like an idea of being a goalkeeper, so you can actually see all the crowd around you in a position and saving penalties in a World Cup final sort of thing. It's saying I'm
How do you move though? How do you move?
Dive around on your carpet.
But mate, I ain't thought through all the.
Maybe we should send you off to Valve and you can bring these excellent ideas to the forefront.
Send me off to Valve. I'll
see what they
sort it.
say.
I'll sort it.
Fine. One of the other, I think we all had a go on the Escapist, didn't we? I played through the tutorial. I don't know. You two just seem to go into the main game where it gives you little or no direction. I played for the tutorial and I found it was quite fun. And I've heard the game itself gives you very, very little hints. So once you've done the tutorial, you're basically stuffed into a prison. They go, right, get out of there on your own. You have to just work a way of getting through it. I enjoyed my sort of 10 minutes with it. What did you two make?
Nah, not really. Nah, not really.
Graphics, they're not good enough.
It's obviously not a graphic game.
Wow.
It's not meant to be. But I was bumbling around and I was like, I ain't got time for this. Give me something else. It does give you no direction. Fair enough. I didn't do a tutorial. I mean, it was all right. It didn't blow me away. Don't really see the point of it.
Pep, you tend to like these games a little bit more.
Yeah, I you know what? I didn't do the tutorial, and I wish I had have. I really liked the game. As I said, I was wandering around the prison, not really knowing what I was doing. But in that thought itself, I felt quite immersed by it. Like they gave you different periods of time, so it was like you've now got free time. So then I went off and just sort of wandered around the prison. Then suddenly it was lunchtime. I had to go to lunch and I had to suddenly get roll call and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that, and I enjoy being able to make my own storyline. And I guess through that is what I will have to do.
You ain't making your own storyline. You're escaping.
Yeah, but you are.
Not fucking living prison life.
Yeah, but you get you get to pick which sort of jobs you do and stuff like that. So you could be like the laundry guy, and you could say, "Well, I'm going to do it as a laundry guy" or something like that. And you're making your own story.
I don't want to be doing laundry. I can do that at home, and I don't like doing it. I don't want to do it in a video game.
This is why you haven't got an imagination, and that's why Valve are not going to be employing you.
I don't need to be
told what you're
I don't want to be cleaning floors. I don't want to be getting done up the bum. I don't want to be dropping soap. I don't want to be doing any of that in prison. I don't want it. It's menial tasks. I don't.
The whole point of the game is to escape, and basically what these tasks do is they enable you. They open up doors. So doing the laundry will give you access to a guard outfit, I imagine, at some point. So you don't do the laundry and then go, right, that's it, and just do that for days on end.
Yeah, but listen to Pipes. He's going, I can just play my own game. I can go to the shop and do the laundry.
He can take the laundry job, or he could take another job, and that offers another route to get out. So you need to find a way. You're left in an open world. It is an open world. It's an open, prison. You're left in your own, to your own device to find a way to escape out of there. So you might do the laundry for a few weeks and go, well, this is offering nothing. Go and do something else. And it doesn't hold your hand at all. So it is, you do make your own story in that sense, that you find your own way out of the prison, and everyone will probably have a different route in and out of each prison, and you can then chat with your friends, say, well, I did this, and he's like, I didn't think of doing it that way. And it's all about using your own, puzzle solving skills and logic to get out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was good.
I did too.
I have my eyes on it, and I'll look at getting hold of that. LA Cops, we had a go at, me and Logan. I found the controls on LA Cops a little bit difficult to gather and muster up. You had to aim with the moving the camera, didn't you? Unless I was doing it wrong. But it was quite a difficult game. A lot more brutal than I expected. When you're just wiping out people, I didn't expect it to be that graphic, but I thought it was okay. I won't be going out and buying it. Logan, you sat down and played it. I'll take it as another one you're going to write off.
The principle was all right. I think it was quite difficult to play. I was sort of struggling a bit. The right analog you sort of could move around with, but if you were in a certain wrong angle with the camera, then you're struggling.
Yeah. So I was watching loading, and you didn't have the grips to it that apps had to it.
No, I didn't. I was sort of going, well, I didn't really.
What happens?
It was all right. It didn't blow me away. So
no. Well, we was talking about these games. Are obviously most of these are out on early access, right? And we were saying, we could go out and pay a few pounds for them. Are you not glad that we went to this thing and tried them out, so that you now know, that's not for me. That's not for. I won't be buying that. Or maybe, I'm quite interested in that now.
No.
So earlier on was all going, nah, that's rubbish. It should be new stuff. And now you're not going to get The Escapist or LA Cops, definitely.
No, because I think if I've paid for it, I might. The thing is, I know that I've got 5 or 10 minutes to sit down there and pick it up. That's it, and then I've got to move along. So if I don't pick it up in that time, I get annoyed and I think, right, well. But if I'm at home, then I might go, right, I've paid the time. I'll sit here with a cup of coffee and I'll figure it out, and it might turn out being a good game. But unless I pick it up straight away. Like even Bloodborne, I was bumbling. I run into sort of more than 2 people and I died. I was like, right, what's offering here? So. It is hard at those places to really sit down. I mean, you do get some people that sit there. They go there all 3 days and go, right, I'm going to sit here for like 4 hours and play this game and just solidly try and get the hang of it. But I ain't going to be doing that.
No. Speaking of Bloodborne, that was probably the biggest title that was there, PlayStation exclusive. We all had a go of it. It's basically what I expected. It looked fucking amazing, I must say. I didn't expect the shading and the graphics to be that good on this sort of alpha release. I was quite impressed with that. Notoriously hard games. It's from the same makers of Dark Souls, which are some of the hardest games that have been made in modern gaming. So this was going to be difficult. I think I lasted about 7 minutes, and like I said, more than 1 or 2 people, and I was struggling to cope with that sort of pressure, and I got wiped out pretty early on. Not sure if it was enough to make me buy it. I mean, it's a hack and slash at the end of the day, but it's quite a tactical hack and slash, and you've really got to be fully on your game to get through it. Either of you two fancy that? I mean, Logan, you can't get it anyway, but more aimed at Piper, I guess.
No, I probably will get it. Just like you was talking about earlier, I won't get it when it first comes out. I'll just wait, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, and it come down massively in price, and then I think it'll be a really good buy. You get a lot of good gameplay out of it. A lot of good. I think you're going to get an amazing storyline out of it, and I think it's going to be very immersive. It's a very dark. It looks like a very, very dark game, which is going to really pull you in and really sort of creep you out. but not as in like a horror type game where things are making you jump. It's just going to just sort of play with your mind a bit. Yeah. Especially with the characters. The characters look very, very creepy, and it's going to be the type that you just wake up in the night and think, oh.
It's got a very distinct style, hasn't it? A unique style. It's very. I've not seen a lot like that. It's very grim.
Yeah,
is how I'd describe it. But I did like it, and I got a couple of minutes out of it. And I do agree with what Logan said earlier. Like, you get 7 minutes on it, and you're never going to pick a game up like that. You'd have to go back in the queue again and keep going, but. It whetted my appetite slightly, and it's something that I'll be looking out for. One of the things that stuck out for me was this stand that we went into that Special Effect had up. Now, Special Effect are a charity, and they want to raise the quality of life for people with disabilities by helping them benefit from, fun and inclusion of video games and other sort of creative technologies. And they had Nidhogg set up on the PS4. But the seats were lowered, the controls were up on a stand, so it was at chin level, and there were 2 buttons on the table that you could use that was synced up to the controllers on the actual, gameplay, performing jumping and stabbing, and it was essentially playing Nidhogg with your chin, and it simulated how a person who was not able-bodied could play Nidhogg. Me and Logan had a go at it. Very, very challenging, wasn't it, Logan?
Yeah, it was hard. Getting your head around.
It was very difficult. Of course, I wiped the floor with him. That was, I think that's the main point I'm trying to make here. But it was, for me personally, it was a real eye opener, because I'd never really considered how a person with disabilities could enjoy video games apart from just watching. But Special Effects are showing that it is possible, and that people can benefit from video games. And as we mentioned, we had Bloodborne, we had Gang Beasts, Oculus Rift, The Escapist, that developer session with Valve. But seeing and experiencing what Special Effects work has done and can do was the biggest high for me. And I implore everyone out there, if you get time, go out there and check their website out. The web address is www.specialeffect.org.uk. They're doing some great work, and it really is an eye opener to what how video games can change the quality of people's life and the different sort of work they're doing there. But I think for me, that's a great note to end on. If you guys want to get in contact with us, you can do on Twitter. Our handle is @DimpDigital, or perhaps you'd like to post on our Facebook page. No problem. Head over to facebook.com/DimpDigital, like our page and get in touch that way. Or maybe you want to go old school. You might want to email us. Well, you can. The email address is dimpdigitalmedia@gmail.com. Don't forget, the YouTube channel is up, and make sure you check it out. There's some incredible stuff on there. You'll be seeing our vlog of the day out at EGX Rezzed, which Piper is currently producing, so look out for that in the near future. Make sure you like and make sure you subscribe. That's it for now. Game over. It's goodbye from Piper.
Bye-bye.
It's goodbye from Logan.
Cheers.
And it's goodbye from me, Apps. Thanks for your time, and ta-da.
Well, I don't know. We didn't have any hall monologues this week, so that's good.
No hall monologues. A little bit of bickering between you clowns.
Well, it's because Logan's being fucking stupid.
Mate, how was I being stupid?
How was you being stupid? You're just going off on your fucking... Oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Did you play fucking Skyrim? I bet you did. Was you just hitting fucking metal all day long to help your crafting improve? I bet you did.
What are you talking about?
I bet you've done mundane tasks and fucking random games all the time.
He's played Minecraft for 50 hours. Now that in itself, of all the tasks, that is the most mundane. Holding a button to break up blocks and then putting them in.
Yeah, but I don't be doing that in real life.
It's mundane.
You're not going to prison in real life.
Exactly, and I don't want to. They don't do nice things in prison.
You want to mine? You want to go in a dirty old mine?
I'd rather be mining than be
fucking creepers trying to blow you up. I don't think so, mate. Come on. Jesus.
Forgot about them creepers and skeletons.